2014, there was palpable excitement in the air and hopes were running high on Narendra Modi when he took over as the country's Prime Minister.
Narendra Damodardas Modi, ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूं.
The former Gujarat Chief Minister came with an established reputation for his administrative skills and reform appetite. Achhe Din was what his government promised, and so the people hoped for a corruption-free state, prosperity and better job opportunities. Cut to 2017.
The really good thing about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government is the Prime Minister himself.
Narendra Modi promised a lot. There were a lot of expectations from the Narendra Modi government.
There has been a certain purposeful, dynamic leadership which Mr. Modi has provided. There is no doubt that he has given a certain sense of energy to the office of Prime Minister.
First 3 years of NDA have been largely corruption and scam-free, and that gives the people of the country a lot of hope and confidence.
Politically, he seems unassailable, his credibility levels are at an all-time high, and the opposition stands decimated.
May 26th will mark the completion of his 3 years in what is arguably the world's most difficult job, fulfilling aspirations of 1 billion plus people in the world's largest democracy. Full 3 years have gone by, and on ground, things have changed.
Not just in terms of communication, but in terms of constantly being virtually on the road, announcing something new, something different, giving a sense of positivity to government and governance. I think that's been the great strength of this government. And I think there has been a conscious attempt to move from outlays to outcomes. And I think that's important for any government to focus on outcomes, not just on outlays. And I think Mr. Modi, with his positive energy, has given a sense of dynamism to the entire central government process. That's the good.
Narendra Damodardas Modi hit the ground running with a host of changes at the policy level, the way government departments function, and in the government's approach to the investor community. And over these 3 years, it has been the absence of any one leader who could match up to Modi that catapulted him to even greater heights.
The thing about Mr. Modi is that he never leaves any space for the opposition. He will take on corruption through demonetization, take on black money. He will say, I'm pro-poor, soil card scheme, Ujjwala scheme. He will show muscular diplomacy, surgical strikes against Pakistan. He will reach out to young India, start up India, stand up India. He will reach out to business and talk about Make in India. If I'm an opponent of Mr. Modi, where do I hit him if on every issue he's appropriating the credit to himself or taking over that space? He's very successful at that.
He's perhaps one of the most hardworking prime ministers that India has had. He has a very clear vision and direction in which he wants India to go. He has the people behind him, obviously, as we've seen in the UP elections. And he also is a very hands-on prime minister. He's not just content in giving the big idea, but he follows through with implementation. And I think that's very important in a country where delivery has always been lacking.
So far, the right-wing government has succeeded in offering a corruption-free, proactive administration, and Modi's grip over the electorate shows no signs of weakening. Though the party lost Delhi and Bihar, it made its mark in the key states like Assam, Manipur and Uttar Pradesh. And so the BJP under Modi broke the jinx of being labelled as a party limited to the Hindi heartland of the country.
Politically, Narendra Modi and the BJP appear unassailable at the moment. Whatever he and Amit Shah touch turns into gold. They've opened the account, they've spread their foot. They are now the largest pan-Indian party. They have footprints across the country. In the northeast, they are even now all set to make inroads into Bengal and in Orissa. And for the first time, apart from Karnataka, we gather they could make a strong presence in Tamil Nadu, maybe some inroads in Kerala.
The Western India gave him massive mandate in 2014. That is all Lok Sabha seats in Gujarat and 42 out of 48 in Maharashtra for Shiv Sena BJP alliance. Now, because of this, there were a lot of expectations from the Narendra Modi government, and especially after BJP won Maharashtra Assembly elections.
Now, there is a perception that the country now has a more stable and confident leader and a government that's not at the mercy of demanding allies. And even though the BJP is not a party in power in any of the 5 South Indian states except as a junior partner to the Telugu Desam in Andhra Pradesh, people south of the Vindhyas also share that optimism and feeling that the Modi Sarkar so far has been good for the country at large.
He has been able to successfully pluck out UPA schemes that were either dormant or not being driven ahead with the same zeal that they should have, and then taken ownership of them and driven them himself. Swatch Bharat is a good example. There was Nirmal Bharat under the Congress, but we hardly knew about it. Mr. Modi made Swatch Bharat part of his core agenda, and I think that was great. It was a great positive that we saw with that. I think again you've seen with even direct benefit transfer, it was planned during the earlier regime. Aadhaar was planned during the earlier regime, but Mr. Modi in a sense has taken ownership of this and driven it much harder. Jan Dhan Yojana also was an idea conceived in an earlier regime, but maybe Mr. Modi has given it even more energy and drive than perhaps and set targets in a manner that maybe the previous government did not. That's his great success. And I think somewhere there was a course correction where, having realized that there was this image being cast of him as Soot Boot Ki Sarkar, Mr. Modi consciously looked for pro-poor schemes, some of which, like the soil card scheme for farmers or the Ujjwala scheme for providing LPG, for providing kerosene stoves at cheap rates, have been pretty successful. These are, or at least have given the impression to a large number of people that here is a Prime Minister who's also thinking about the poor.
Entire emphasis to devolve to the states, that he sees states as the key drivers of growth. And you can see that in terms of the way he has allocated funds to them in divisions of funds, and now with the goods and services tax that is going to come up, the GST, which is the single biggest structural reform on taxation for a long time that we've seen.
On the reforms front, Modi has clearly managed to get the juggernaut moving by kicking off the reforms process with respect to goods and services tax, focus on large corporate loan defaulters, and major drive to rationalize subsidies. Also, inflation has come down, exports have started picking up, and business confidence has improved.
What we can see is that the Modi government's important thrust is on the infrastructure projects, and that is the reason why it looks like that the state government could start a lot of infrastructure projects, especially in a city like Mumbai, the metro project, the coastal road, or the Mumbai-Nagpur express highway. All these projects came into pipeline because of the rapid clearances from the central government, and it looked like that the Modi government was quite efficient on that front.
By focusing on infrastructure, which is roads, housing, rail, transport and shipping, I think he's building a network that will catapult us in terms of both manufacturing and the economy itself into possibly what he's desiring, a developed country. So I think he's got the directions clear, and that's very good about it.
On foreign policy, an area in which Narendra Modi had little experience, he has done surprisingly well. He has become adept at leveraging foreign policy for domestic development. Since May 2014, Narendra Modi has made 56 foreign visits. He has been on a non-stop tour of major capitals to not only shore up India's flagging image abroad, but also to hard sell India as an attractive investment destination.
On foreign policy, he's worked on essentially 2 or 3 fronts. He's tried trade, and that's been a great thing. He's been right across many countries and built the confidence levels, and you can see it in the foreign direct investment that is coming. It's highest in recent times, and that is showing results. All his visits to various countries, and he's just not focused on 1 or 2. He's been to Europe, he's been to Africa, he's been to Central Asia, he's been to the Americas, and he's certainly built, apart from that, of course, the neighbors itself.
India's handling of Pakistan too has helped the Modi government earn some brownie points. The surgical strike conducted by the Indian Army in September 2016 on terror launch pads along the LOC seems to have boosted the Modi government's image among the people.
Overall, I think the foreign policy issues had a direction. Even on Pakistan, while he made the efforts and then got tough with them on the surgical strike, demonstrating that they could go this far and no further, he also started building what we call a ring around Pakistan, which is befriending the Middle East countries, particularly Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iran. We've sort of repaired relations, really good relations with Afghanistan now, and the Central Asian. So you're building a ring of essentially Islamic countries, but then putting pressure on Pakistan to mend its way. So I think there was a strategy on that.
In the over 1,000 days that he has been in office, Modi seems indefatigable. He outpaces his younger colleagues by looking peppy. It's difficult to ignore his signature half-sleeve kurtas even if you're not remotely interested in politics. And he has clocked more miles in India and abroad than anyone else in the government. And while he has mastered the science of winning elections, there's a lot of scope for him to learn the art of good governance. The Modi government has faltered on several counts. A major negative in this government's report card is that it has nothing to show on the employment front. The Make in India initiative and jobs generation have miles to go.
The real concern I feel about the economy is that manufacturing really hasn't grown. It did suffer depression, some amount of lack of growth during demonetization, picked up a bit, but not substantially. So what we are seeing is really a jobless growth on many sectors. They have not been able to, private investment has not come in the manner that it should, partly and maybe largely because of the huge amount of debts that they owe the banks. The non-performing assets, as we call them, the NPAs, the banks are overwhelmed and overburdened by the kind of the NPAs that have been built up over the years. The government is now beginning to bring in regulation and try to ease the entire problem of that. It's still some time away. And banks are now shy to lend to investors. And that's the great, lend to borrowers. And that's a great problem. Because if they are putting tough clauses, then industry finds it difficult to go and ask them for money. And I think that's become a vicious circle that the government needs to break very quickly if it has to sort out the issues of jobs and also start boosting manufacturing.
Modi's demonetization stroke in November 2016, which according to the government was meant to wipe out corruption and the corrupt, failed to deliver the desired results.
Is India a more digital country at the end of that entire exercise? Unfortunately not. The digital dream continues to be a mirage. So as far as the common man is concerned, the entire exercise didn't seem to achieve the results that it promised it will.
You know, demonetization has been a political victory. Politically, it has benefited him. Economically, I'm still not convinced, and I'm still to learn of how we are better off now than we were before demonetization. And it speaks volumes of his credibility levels that he sold people a dream and they bought it.
And I think purely for his ability to take risks in the context of demonetization, you'll have to give him very high marks. And I think he also was able to send out a certain fear factor amidst those who hold large amounts of black money. And I think for that, you have to give him strong, good marks. Where the problem is again is your ability to implement these bold decisions, your ability to think them through, your ability to have a wider range of consultation before you take these big decisions.
However, demonetization impacted jobs in the informal sector. With more number of people being pushed out of factory jobs, the number of unemployed in the market is steadily on the rise.
I think the Modi government deserves high marks for saying all the right things. The question is, what is actually happening on the ground? Is India really changing and transforming as much as the Prime Minister claims he is transforming it? Is there a gap between the dream that he is throwing and the reality on the ground? Why are we not being able to create more jobs? Why is there still so much of agrarian distress? Why is manufacturing not picking up as much as the slogans would tell us? Why are top Indian industrialists continuing to invest outside India just as much as they might invest in this country? Why is it that despite the claims that of 7.5% GDP growth and the Sensex at 30,000, am I not seeing, when I talk to industrialists, a genuine feel-good spirit in them? Somewhere there is a mismatch.
As far as the South is concerned, Andhra Pradesh would be hugely disappointed with the Modi government for not granting it the special category status, something it was promised on the floor of the House in Parliament by the previous Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. Tamil Nadu, which has faced huge political turmoil right through September when Jayalalitha was hospitalized and a subsequent demise in December, yet the government, the Union Home Ministry and the government in Delhi hasn't bothered to appoint a full-time governor, given that his presence and his decision making would be extremely critical in these times of political crisis. And in Kerala, the BJP has done little to rein in the RSS, which continues to take on the CPM, reducing the entire Malabar, the North Kerala region, to a scoreboard of political killings.
While the Modi government has been time and again lauded for taking India abroad, its Pakistan and China policies have vacillated over the past 3 years. Modi made vigorous attempts to woo both Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and Chinese Prime Minister Xi Jinping in the first year of his tenure. But both relationships soured over time.
Mr. Modi is a great ambassador for Brand India. He's a great salesman, and I think he's done a remarkable job in selling India to the world, particularly, by traveling to virtually every corner of the world. But I think Mr. Modi's primary foreign policy failings or certainly question marks are in the neighborhood itself. We still don't know why he went and met Nawaz Sharif one day suddenly out of the blue and then pulled back from the engagement totally. We still don't know why this is a Prime Minister who sat on a jhula with the Chinese Premier in Ahmedabad and today is virtually daring China by sending the Dalai Lama to Arunachal Pradesh.
You need to go beyond grand gestures. Personal initiatives, personal chemistry works, but ground realities, foreign policy is driven purely by national interest. China or Pakistan or the United States or India, we will do only what is in our interest. He did go to Pakistan. He thought that one grand gesture will just wipe away 60 years of or 65 years of animosity and differences. There are very deep-rooted issues between India and Pakistan. They need to be thought through. There has to be, engagement. You can't stamp your will, just have it your way. Therefore, I do believe that one serious drawback or minus point with this government is that while relations with Pakistan is to blame, largely to blame for the state that we are in. But with China, we need to tread a lot more cautiously. This is not domestic politics. You can't flex your muscles and get away with it. China is China. It's a giant superpower, and we need to tread very cautiously and deal with them in a far more nuanced manner than we are doing right now. With America, ties are very good. With the Gulf, with Israel, with Europe, yes, we are doing well. But China and Pakistan remain the trouble spots.
What is ugly about this government is that for all the talk of social cohesion and social and sabka saath, sabka vikas, truth is that there still from time to time is the suspicion that this is a majoritarian government. Now that may be partly ideological baggage that this government carries from the fact that it is spawned out of the womb of the Sangh Parivar and RSS. But I do believe that if I am a minority in India today, I feel a sense of fear if I was a minority. And when I hear about Gau Rakshaks one day or beef bans the next, I wonder whether I am being targeted in some manner. So I think the Prime Minister and the government needed to do more to ensure greater social cohesion. And I think when you hear of a story like Pehlu Khan, then you ask yourself, why is the government not doing more to check those who in the name of religion or religious practice are resorting to vigilantism?
Though the politics over the Gau Mata has not affected the south of the Vindhyas, the peninsula, to the extent that the North Indian states have been, there still has been a trend by some rabble-rousers, some of them belonging to the BJP, to provoke passions over this extremely sensitive issue. The more ugly aspect, as I see it, is the manner in which the universities, the places of learning, have been turned into political hotbeds, places of ugly politicking. We saw that here in Hyderabad University over the Rohit Vemula issue, when the student committed suicide in January 2016, and later on in the JNU in Delhi as well, where every student is almost expected to demonstrate his or her patriotism. Now what the NDA regime, the BJP and its various allied organizations, right-wing organizations, need to realize is that students come to the universities to become better individuals through debate, through discourse, and that's not the place where politics should really take over. And the level of intolerance, unfortunately, has only increased, and most noticeably at the universities in different parts and different cities of the country under this NDA regime.
His failure would be his seeming inability to rein in eager beavers within the Sangh Parivar. Kashmir and the Naxal problem remain the same. More lives are being lost in terms of civilians as well as Jawans, both in Kashmir and in the Maoist infested areas.
Where is the big idea that the Prime Minister has given us on Kashmir? I haven't seen that. And he's allowed therefore the situation to drift to the point where today there is a political vacuum in the valley.
The mistake this government has made is they are mistaking majority for majoritarianism, muscular majoritarism. It's one thing to be decisive, it's quite another to be authoritarian, and that thin line is that distinction is being blurred very rapidly.
I think people, a great democracy like India, ask for results. They are not taken in by talk. Maybe for 2 years you could seduce them with talk and silver talking your way through various issues. But at the end of the day, people say, show us the result.
Mr. Modi is the ultimate dream merchant. He has mesmerized and hypnotized, if I may use the word, many Indians to believe that he is going to turn India maybe into Singapore or something certainly better than what it is today. But that's not going to happen overnight. And that's going to require, I believe, strengthening of institutions and delivery systems. The Prime Minister is trying. For effort, I will give him a lot of, he's made the effort. But I don't think, and I just think that sometimes he's a victim of his own rhetoric and therefore convinces himself that things are moving when actually on the ground they are not.